everyone, and welcome to December's podcast from the Nutty Networkers. I am aware that we're a little late this month, but everything's been a little bit hectic lately. So, we got the podcast out for you. I'm sorry it's late. We won't do it again. Hee hee hee. Yes, we will. As you all are aware, it is the end of December, which means it is the holiday season. And I am sure that all of you are being very safe, staying at home, having no indoor social gatherings.
Or outdoor.
Well, it's cold outside. I know it kind of sucks not being able to get together with all your friends and family for the holidays, but we gotta stay safe, we gotta listen to the rules, and we have next Christmas. Or Hanukkah.
We can think of Christmas pasts. I know we were talking about this before we started recording. And Anna mentioned about how her favorite Christmas memory were the lights at City Hall. Anna, do you want to elaborate on that?
Which are still going on despite COVID.
Yes.
You can still drive by the City Hall and see them.
So City Hall, each year for I think about the last 2 or 3 years, has done a light up City Hall where everybody that wants to from Wetaskiwin does the Christmas parade, and then we all head over to City Hall to watch it be lit up in glorious, beautiful lights, which, it's one of my favorite memories from the past 2 or 3 years. And speaking about City Hall, I would think everybody knows, who has lived in Wetaskiwin for quite a while, that City Hall was a courthouse.
Yeah.
Now,
it's a pretty old building. It's been through a lot.
It has been through a lot. Now, the courthouse was originally, or the City Hall, which was originally a courthouse, was designed way back when by an architect called, and his name was A.M. Jeffords. No idea his first 2 names. Who knows? And the City Hall, or the courthouse, was actually one of the first courthouses in Alberta to ever exist.
Oh, wow.
So that's crazy.
It's a really big part of Alberta and Canada's really historical legacy because it is such an old courthouse.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
So it was modeled actually after like Renaissance architecture, which I didn't think about. I don't know anything about the Renaissance.
The designer was from Calgary, right?
Pardon?
Wasn't the designer from Calgary?
I don't know. I only know his name is A.M. Jeffords, and this was one of the first courthouses he made.
I think you're mixing it up. I think some of the materials were from Calgary.
Okay, because I remember reading an article and it mentioned Calgary a lot, which is I found interesting because Calgary Power made our water tower, which is kind of a cool connection that Wetaskiwin has with Calgary several times over in our past.
We just like to be friends with Calgary.
Yeah. We love Cowtown.
So the courthouse was completed in 1906 at a cost of only $75,000. I mean, it was like a big cost at the time, but looking at it today, oh my gosh, that was cheap.
Yeah. No wonder it was the first. Alberta was only a province for a year.
Now, it was finished in 1906, but it didn't actually hook up to the Wetaskiwin water system until 1911.
Well, did they even have toilets back then? I don't think they needed a water system.
Esther, it isn't 1911 BC, it's AD. I'm sure they had at least some technology.
Yeah, they had some running water. So they didn't have actually running water to the building until like 5 years later.
Wow.
For that 5 years, I would not have wanted to be the person who would constantly went and got water.
Nope.
That would have sucked.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first ever sitting in the courthouse was actually 2 years afterwards, on January 21st, 1908. And they had to build the courthouse because there were a total of 33 cases in all of Wetaskiwin, which I guess isn't that much. Apparently enough to build a courthouse.
Well, what
But
was
you
the
wanna
population?
guess what the majority of those cases were?
Theft?
Stolen horses.
Yes,
Ha!
horse theft.
Wow!
Hey, horses are valuable, man.
I
Yeah.
guess so.
It's like, in addition
So-
to not having toilets, they didn't have cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially back then, horses were a prized possession, and I guess you got fined a lot if you stole a horse.
Well, you needed them
Yeah.
for everything. For farm work, transportation.
Yeah.
Like, it's like stealing someone's vehicle or someone's tractor.
Exactly. Then on March 25th, 1977, it was declared a historical site because it had closed. I guess it wasn't needed anymore.
Yeah, because
And
they
the
could
last,
take...
yeah, it wasn't needed anymore for being a courthouse. It was moved. Fun fact, actually, in this time, when it was a courthouse, it used to have a bell on the very top of it, and every single day at noon, it would ring.
Huh.
Oh, well, we have the clock still rings at 12 noon every day.
Reminds me of that scene in Mary Poppins when
Yes.
the cannon blasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
So the bell would ring every day, but it would also ring for things like special occasions. So it would ring on Remembrance Day to remember the veterans. It would ring on special birthdays or holidays like Christmas.
We should bring that back.
That would be cool.
We should build a bell tower. The Nutty
Yeah.
Networkers Bell Tower.
And who's gonna finance
If
that?
we can fund that, I would be.
And every day on my
Surprise.
birthday, it will ring because I am the
Continuously.
most important person in Wetaskiwin.
Yes, sure thing, Esther.
So I was actually talking with Megan, and apparently the museum, I actually saw it, has the bell from that bell tower in their artifacts.
Oh, wow. See, we don't need to finance it. We just need to ring it around a little bit.
How big is the bell?
It's quite big.
So
I
we'll
I
just
don't think
stick-
I've ever seen it at the museum.
We'll just take Joe inside of it and rock him back and forth a couple
Yeah.
times.
Like the 2020 bellboy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
$15 an hour.
Perfect.
that's just to pay for my medical bills.
So the courthouse didn't really stay alive, I suppose, for 75 years.
Oh, wow.
And
That's a long
it
time.
was a focal point for Alberta.
Interesting. So it wasn't
Yeah.
alive, but it was a focal point.
Yeah. It was a big thing because it's one of the first courthouses, which I didn't know. I thought courthouses existed.
Yeah. Just
I thought
every
it would've
town.
been a
You
big
get a
thing.
mayor, you get a doctor, and you get a courthouse.
Yeah.
This isn't Disney cars. I'm sorry, but that's how life works.
What are you talking about?
So sadly, yes, the courthouse shut down, and it transitioned into the city hall we know today. So, Joe, I have heard that you have done some research on that, from the transition from the courthouse to city hall.
Yes, I have. It might not be as much information as Anna had, but I'm going to credit it to two things. Nothing much happened in that 20-year period, and COVID.
You're just gonna blame COVID
just
on everything.
blaming
Excuses.
everything on COVID. I left all my notes at the museum, and this podcast, I was going to say interview, but it's a podcast, is recorded over Zoom. So we are in our own houses, nice and warm,
In our
many,
pajama
many
pants.
miles apart from each other.
Which makes me sad.
It
But
does make us sad.
Stay safe,
but-
everyone.
We always want to stay safe. I digress. So, as Anna mentioned, it was closed in 1983 because there were bigger and better courthouses that the cases could be carried to. But it wasn't destroyed. They were thinking about it, but then it was a historic site.
Yeah, because it's older than the dinosaurs.
Sure, honey, sure. It's just Alberta's not proud of it. It's a prized possession.
Yeah, because it's old.
Exactly, because it was one of the first.
Yes.
Houses. It's a historical building because it was one of the first of its kind, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Wetaskiwin District?
Yes.
I forgot the name. Oh my goodness.
You're
Wetaskiwin. I'm a volunteer. I can't be fired. The Wetaskiwin and District Heritage Museum, there we go, was holding tours in the old courthouse, and they toured through the basement, which I believe was a kind of jail. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It is.
Yeah, so they toured through that. So when it came up in the early 2000s of what they should turn it into, after a series of interruptions, we are back. As I said earlier, we are in our home studios, let's just say. And it's a little hard to record a Zoom podcast with 4 little siblings, but we have made it back.
We didn't die. I know you were worried.
As I was saying, the the Heritage Museum, I keep on messing up the name. I'm saddened by my lack of intelligence. The Wetaskiwin and District Heritage Museum was carrying tours in the old courthouse.
Still are. Well, not during
but
COVID.
now it's a city hall.
Right.
But there are still tours. I'm not sure if the museum's leading them.
I think we are.
You'll have to contact the museum to find out. In the early 2000s, when they were thinking of restoring the old courthouse building, they were thinking of actually turning it into the new site for the heritage. It's a heritage museum, not the district museum. The Heritage Museum's new site, because they were looking for a new place to live, per se. So they had that idea, and then they had the idea of turning it into a city hall with lots of new technological...
Like toilets.
Well, no, they had toilets before then. What is it? It's slipping my mind. It's like
Technological advances.
Yeah, they had like this frosted glass that's eco-friendly, really some scientific stuff.
A bunch of new stuff.
Yeah,
that
they
would bring it
renovated.
into a new site.
They renovated it in 2005, and
Yeah.
they just made it.
And then they turned it into a city hall. And the Heritage Museum is now on Main Street, where it is today.
Yes, come check us out as soon as the restrictions open.
Yes.
So,
And I will pass it on to Esther to talk about Wetaskiwin City Hall in the present day.
did you just get an accent?
Sure thing.
No, it's amazing.
Thank you.
So, yeah. You make me laugh. So, I just looked it up quickly because in our Weird and Wonderful Wetaskiwin exhibit, we did do a little piece on the City Hall. So, you are correct. The bricks and keystones that were used to build the courthouse came from Calgary area.
Stay in school, kids.
Stay in school, kids.
Then you
School's
learn
good for
stuff.
you. And one thing that none of you really mentioned was the fact that we kind of touched on it, there was holding cells and prisoners in the basement, but there was also a living area for the caretaker and his family.
Oh.
So the
What?
caretaker...
I didn't know that.
I bet he was an important guy to have just a house within the courthouse for him and his family.
So the caretaker was in charge of cleaning the courthouse and whatever, and his wife was in charge of making meals for the prisoners.
So he
He
take
cleaned the
care-
toilets.
So he was kind of like
He's a janitor. He was like a janitor.
a janitor. Okay,
Yeah.
he wasn't the person. He wasn't the sheriff.
No.
Okay, was there
Wait,
even a
wait.
sheriff?
Yes, there was a sheriff.
Huh.
These prisoners got home cooked meals.
I know, right?
Maybe I should go commit a crime. I'm just
No,
kidding. Just kidding.
You should never go commit crime. Never, bad girl.
So
But, like,
as
they
we
got home cooked meals
I know, right?
every day,
as
3 meals a day.
well, maybe she didn't cook that well, and that's why she was in charge of taking care of them.
Oh, that's
Because she doesn't
A-
cook that well. So
that's
maybe
a
you
low
wanna cook
blow,
good
Esther.
food, but not that.
I
good
hate
food.
to break it to you,
Yes.
but that'll be you in the future. Esther's cooking is, let's just say it's questionable.
I'm learning.
You are learning, which is good.
So the building sat empty for 20 years until, and then it was renovated in 2005, and then in 2007, it started to serve as the city hall. So we talked a little bit at the beginning about how ridiculously cheap it was to build this. So I'm just gonna mention a couple laws that there was, and the prices for committing like the tickets. So the speed limit in Wetaskiwin was 10 miles per hour, and if you were speeding, you got a fine of $5. And that doesn't sound like much now, but that was a lot in 1906.
Yeah, you can't look at history through the lens of today.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were caught a second time, the ticket was $25, which that's a crazy
That's a
leap.
cost.
Or an imprisonment, where you get home-cooked meals.
Either or. And do you know who got the choice?
If you couldn't pay the ticket, you'd go into prison.
Okay.
And then, according to Jay McGregor's book, The History of Wetaskiwin, the speed limits around Wetaskiwin varied from 5 miles an hour to 20 miles an hour. And on rural roads, the speed limit was 20 miles per hour if there was no horses around you. But if you were approaching a horse, you had to slow down your vehicle to 10 miles per hour.
Makes sense.
Yeah, otherwise they'd spook. And if the horse spooks, the driver is responsible for any damage done by the horse, and they had to pay for it.
So that's
So
like...
lesson is, don't spook the horse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So in my very amateur mental math, that's from like 8 kilometers per hour to about 30 kilometers per hour. So that's not very fast.
No.
For today's vehicles,
For
though.
today's standards.
I'm not
yeah.
sure about in... What year was this?
1906.
1906. Probably pretty
Oh,
fast.
I guess they did have toilets in 1906, because in 1906...
Yeah, well, we mentioned this multiple times, Esther. I don't get why you're fixated on toilets.
Esther's just obsessed about the lack of indoor plumbing.
Because in 1906, the government of Alberta passed a provincial motor vehicle act that stated that if you had a vehicle, you must register with the provincial secretary and take out a permit, and that's how you get a license and a number, and you had to have that number exposed at all times, and you had to have lights on your vehicle.
How is this related to toilets
Well,
again?
I guess if they had
Or
vehicles,
city
they
hall.
had toilets.
Yeah, good inference.
Okay, so enough about 1906. So today, as in 2020,
before COVID, let's say.
So
Pre-
pre-COVID, when we were dreaming up our podcast, we were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could have like guest speakers on the show? And when we made our list,
we did make a list.
we made a list, and for this podcast, we really wanted to invite our mayor, Tyler Gandam, to...
Should you say Mr. Tyler Gandam?
Mayor Tyler Gandam.
Mayor.
Your worship.
Your worship. The worship of
No,
the
that's
task.
what you're supposed to call it.
Only
It's
when
your
you're in
worship.
City Hall. And he's sitting down with the wig and everything.
He doesn't wear a wig.
Where did that come from?
It's called artistic liberty.
She was lying.
I am lying. But
So when we thought of this, we really wanted to have him come and be able to talk to him face to face. But because of COVID, we just sent him an email instead. And then we also got sent home anyways. So good thing we didn't actually book him an appointment with him. So I emailed him and I asked him what would the day-to-day happenings of City Hall look like. And his favorite memory, story, experience being in City Hall. And he got back to me. And he said, especially now that there's COVID around, they're not actually spending that much time in City Hall, which makes sense. Everyone's trying to stay at home and be safe. And so he says the day-to-day operations of City Hall include the utility bill payments, finance for all aspects of city operations, development including permits, grant applications. The general managers of all our departments also work out of City Hall. Human relations, communication staffs who look after the city's correspondence and social media, economic development, and the city IT works out of City Hall.
So what does that all mean?
Well, it's a pretty busy
fancy
place.
stuff.
It's the mitochondria of the cell. For anyone that has at least sat in a Bio 10 class, should get
The powerhouse, the mitochondria.
The
is
mitochondria.
powerhouse of the cell.
as the mitochondria. Now it sounds like an IQ test. As the mitochondria is to the cell, City Hall is to the city of Wetaskiwin. There we go.
This is not science.
City Hall is the
I
thing
don't
that
care.
powers and
This
runs.
is a social studies podcast.
Hashtag nerd life.
You're fired.
As I said before, you can't fire me. I'm a volunteer.
I'm just saying, Joe, you don't really learn. You don't only learn it in grade 10. We learned it back in grade 8.
Oh,
He wasn't listening.
We didn't learn about the mitochondria in grade 8. Leduc is weird.
Anyways, back to what the topic is.
Yeah.
So basically,
Non-unconscious.
every day-to-day thing that happens in City Hall
It's
is
important.
to the city. So and there's a wide variety, like everything from paying bills to like social media, like follow the city of Wetaskiwin on social media. They have some pretty good pictures. And economic development and just everything works there. It's a big hub for the city. And he says his favorite memory was his first meeting after he was elected to council in 2013. He was overwhelmed, terrified, and excited all at the same time.
Well, that makes sense. That was like me joining the youth network. You're all scary museum professionals.
Yeah, you didn't talk. Can we
I
go
don't
back?
think I talked.
Can we go back to those days?
How many years ago was that? Is it 2 or 3 now? I think
have
it's
no
2.
idea. They all just blend together.
Yeah.
And he says that he loves our city hall. It's such an amazing building, and he is very grateful he gets to work there. So
We have to agree. Not the working part, but that City Hall is such an amazing building.
it is,
It is.
especially this time of year when it's all lit up and beautiful and gorgeous and like, ugh, I love it so much.
And I think it makes it even better if we know about the history of it. Like
Exactly.
we've looked into the history of the museum, City Hall, a few other buildings, and it brings such a different
It's fascinating,
experience.
really.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
you drive by and you think, oh, it's just an old building, but then it's like it's one of the first courthouses in Alberta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I think knowing about the history of these buildings in Wetaskiwin is getting to know Wetaskiwin more as it was, so that we can maintain it for the future and make it better, but yet keep the history.
Exactly.
Do you write essays in your free time? Because that was like amazing.
You're hired.
That's why she's our secretary.
That's why she's the Secretary of State.
No, this is not America. This is Wetaskiwin.
We're better than that. Might want to edit that out. I believe that is.
That is it.
Anybody else have any interesting facts about City Hall off the top of your head?
No, it's just a pretty cool place.
Based off Renaissance?
The fact that a Wetaskiwin courthouse is I read it in an article. The Wetaskiwin Courthouse is an important part of Canada's historical
Right.
legacy.
And yeah, I was kind of thinking like the water tower is one of the oldest working water towers. And the courthouse is the first courthouse in all
One
of
of the
Alberta.
first.
One of the first. But it's kind of cool how in Wetaskiwin, the small little city that
It's not that small. It was
it's-
almost the capital of Alberta.
it's the smallest
It was.
city in Canada. But like,
It's not the smallest.
yeah, it is.
It's the
It's
small-
the smallest registered city in Canada. Fun fact.
You learn
Um,
something new every day.
Really?
I see it as like a small city in compared to the rest of the country. I think it's kind of cool how we have a lot of
Oh, this
history in our little bubble of Wetaskiwin and
Yeah.
county.
It's great. I love Wetaskiwin. Yeah. Well, no, you learn something new every day. Did you guys know that one time there was a mayor Dyke that rode an elephant in Wetaskiwin?
We
Yes.
were going to put that in our exhibit. I'm not sure if you remember this, but we just couldn't find enough information
Yeah,
on
we
it,
only
I
had
think.
pictures of it
I think it was mostly pictures and like
and one news article.
one
Did
news
you guys
article
know that?
and
You learn something new every day, people. There
Oh.
was a mayor of Wetaskiwin that rode an elephant. How many people can say that they had a mayor that rode an elephant?
in an elephant race.
Yeah, it was an elephant race, and guess what? We don't know who won because the news article did not cover that.
So
Did you
if-
also know that there was a time that Wetaskiwin got completely flooded where they had to float on houses?
I
I know
did
that.
look into that for a Facebook post once, but
That was pretty funny. The
Yeah.
pictures, I'm sure it was horrible, but the pictures are absolutely golden.
if
And you really know that it's true because there is no such thing as Photoshop
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
when they were taken.
yeah.
Exactly.
And if you guys have any fun facts about the history of Wetaskiwin County, Maskwacis,
Four
or
nations.
just yes, 4 nations, sorry.
Alberta in general.
Or Alberta in general, maybe Canada if it relates to Wetaskiwin enough. Drop them down. I sound like a YouTuber again.
We are YouTubers.
Drop them down. Oh yeah, this is going on YouTube.
Okay, stay
Drop-
focused.
Sorry. Drop them down in the comments down below and
Or on our
Well-
Facebook page, Nutty Networkers.
probably the Facebook page is better. Just contact us. Let us know and we might include them in
Hey,
our next podcast.
You might be a special guest in our podcast.
if you have enough information.
Or because we like people.
We do, but it is COVID. That might be a little hard
After
to schedule.
COVID, we will schedule
Yes.
into
I
our
think we're
podcast.
getting a little too literal here.
Okay, we will see you all next year. Not see.
We will speak to you next year where
Yes.
we talk about
Not
the
sure
early
what
history
it is.
of Wetaskiwin.
Yes, early beginnings. Just like a new year. Thank you for tuning in again. And yeah, stay home, stay safe,
Wear a mask.
wear a mask, because we all want this gong show to be over as soon as possible.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
And a Happy New Year. Bye.